Tonight, the heat of the moment. Millions of Canadians struggle to stay cool in the scorching weather. Record-breaking temperatures.
It's a little warm. It's hot.
It's horrible, actually.
And precautions to protect the vulnerable.
Some people may not be acclimatized, which is important in terms of some of the health risks.
A woman goes public about a past incident with billionaire Frank Stronach.
54-year-old CEOs should not be sleazing on 19-year-old students.
Plus, the leadership questions looming over the NATO summit.
I am not going anywhere.
Also brushing away some red tape to get more dentists into Ottawa's plan.
Some of the patients haven't seen a dentist in 5, 10 plus years.
And shifting gears at Canadian car lots.
A slowdown in sales, inventory is building up.
Falling prices and the possibility of even better deals ahead.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. There are hundreds of warnings tonight as a blistering heat wave that started in British Columbia expands across much of Western Canada by midweek. Temperatures in the province's southern interior are expected to soon soar above 40 degrees. And warnings for those attending outdoor events like the Calgary Stampede in Alberta, where it could get up to 37 degrees in some parts. Saskatchewan and Manitoba also expected to bake. All of it happening as the European Climate Service revealed today that the global temperature in June hit a record high for the 13th straight month. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on how long the stifling heat could last.
Stifling temperatures continue to have a smothering effect in British Columbia. Some areas could peak at 40 degrees by midweek, and then finally some relief in the forecast.
We would expect temperatures to be a few degrees cooler.
Hundreds of heat warnings are in place for Western Canada, but the heat dome will not break records set back in 2021.
So there is a pretty big distinction between what we saw then and what we are seeing now.
6,000 kilometers away, a separate weather system sent the mercury into the mid-30s in the Maritimes. Nancy Brister prefers cooler weather.
In January, we were praying for this.
On Halifax's waterfront, a day like this hits the city's outdoor sweet spot.
It attracts people to the Halifax waterfront.
But the heat and dry conditions are also dangerous. Dozens of wildfires are still burning in Alberta. In BC, even with the temperatures expected to cool into Wednesday, that change brings a risk of dry lightning sparking wildfires, including potentially the Okanagan.
With our fuels so dry, and with the heat that we're seeing, any risk is a significant risk.
Environment Canada's Dave Phillips says Northern California heat is having a brutal impact on Canada.
The heat dome has moved northward. It's grabbed hold of British Columbia. It's pushing into Alberta, into Saskatchewan.
Here in Nova Scotia and in the Maritimes, you could say people are experiencing a bit of weather whiplash with a jolt. Just 3 days ago, the high temperature was 17 degrees. 72 hours later, it's roughly twice that hot, with the humidex in the high 30s. Weather warnings in the Maritimes are expected to last several more days. Western Canada's heat dome could stretch into the weekend. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Extreme weather is slamming Texas, where Beryl made landfall today as a Category 1 hurricane, killing at least 4 people in Houston. Dangerous storm surges pounded the coast, powerful winds causing widespread destruction. At least 8 people had to be rescued after becoming trapped by rising waters. We are hearing tonight from a woman who is coming forward about what she describes as an unwelcome but not illegal sexual interaction with billionaire Frank Stronach when she was 19 and he was in his 50s. Other alleged sexual interactions involving the auto parts magnate, now 91, have resulted in more than a dozen criminal charges. Here's CTV's John Woodward.
I was a teenager, a high school student that was selected by Magna International.
In 1985, Jane Boone was 19. She was picked for a major scholarship that kick-started her engineering career. The benefactor, then CEO of Magna International, Frank Stronach, who was in his 50s.
I was game and so flattered by the attention. And then things got weird.
She told CTV News she was invited to Magna's annual shareholder meeting at Roy Thompson Hall and then to dinner at Stronach's Toronto restaurant.
Stronach announces to the driver that I have had too much to drink, that I'm in no condition to go back to Guelph, and that he will drive me to the guest house.
She said she surrendered her keys, and on the way to the guest house in Gormley, she felt pressure to give Stronach what she believed he wanted.
There was like this delay where it all sort of clicked together in my head. I was like, oh boy, I just messed up. I just did something really stupid. I think I'm going to have to sleep with him now.
Boone described what happened that night as unwelcome but not illegal. But other alleged sexual interactions involving Stronach, now 91, have resulted in criminal charges, including sexual assault. Stronach did not show up in person at his first court appearance in Brampton. His lawyer appeared virtually instead. The charges describe incidents from the late 1970s to February of this year. There are 10 alleged victims across 13 counts, 7 in Toronto, 1 each in Scarborough, Central York, and Gormley, and 2 in Aurora, the city where Magna is headquartered. The company has said it has no knowledge of any of these allegations, and Stronach himself said in a statement, in many free and democratic societies, the identities of both the accuser and the accused are protected while the police initiate a charge against a citizen. This is not the case in Canada. Frank Stronach, like all Canadians, values the time-honored legal principle that a person is innocent until proven guilty. However, unlike most Canadians, he faces the reputational damage which constant media attention attracts. The statement didn't directly address Boone's story. Boone said as soon as she heard of the charges, she phoned the Peel police and was interviewed. She said she has a lot of questions about what other Magna employees knew.
54-year-old CEOs should not be sleazing on 19-year-old students in their employ.
An experience, she said, derailed her career in engineering. She's now a writer. John Woodward, CTV News.
2 ex-junior hockey players are heading to prison for sexually assaulting a minor at a hotel 3 years ago after a Victoriaville's Tigers Championship celebration. Nicolas Daigle on the left got 32 months and Massimo Siciliano on the right was given a 30-month sentence. Daigle also pleaded guilty to filming and exhibiting a video of the act. A frantic search and rescue operation is underway in Kyiv after Russian missiles targeted a children's hospital. Parents clutched their children after the rare daylight attack. Across the country, at least 36 civilians were killed in a wave of deadly strikes, the heaviest in months. 150 were injured. Some of Ukraine's staunchest allies will meet at tomorrow's NATO summit in Washington. Cracks have emerged in the alliance over defense spending, with Canada accused of not pulling its weight. But that could soon be changing. Here's CTV's Judy Trin.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau knows friendly fire is coming his way. Canada is nowhere close to spending 2% of its GDP on defense, even though it's committed to do so under NATO. Today, a sign that Canada is working on a plan to meet that target.
Over the course of the next few days, I'll be able to share that credible, verifiable plan with our allies.
23 out of 32 NATO countries meet the target. Canada currently sits at 1.37% and projects that by 2030, it will get to 1.76% of GDP. President Joe Biden has given notice. Countries that miss the mark will get singled out.
The president wants to laud and commemorate those who have, but also make it clear that those who haven't still have some work to do.
While Canada falls short on overall defense spending, the federal government says it punches above its weight when it comes to Ukraine. Since the Russian invasion in 2022, Canada has provided Ukraine with $4 billion in military support for weapons, ammunition, and training.
There are allies in NATO who are meeting 2% who do not support standing up for Ukraine and Russia.
With rising far-right forces eroding support for the military alliance in France and Germany, Biden needs to lock in commitments from all NATO members to demonstrate his political skill and stave off the looming possibility of another Trump presidency.
It's not all right-wing governments that reject NATO, but it's clear that Donald Trump himself has for a long time been skeptical of NATO.
The Prime Minister is trying to counter domestic issues as well. Canadians are hurting from the high cost of living. And before the NATO summit officially begins on Tuesday afternoon, Trudeau has scheduled meetings with American business and congressional leaders to talk trade and generate economic opportunities. Judy Trin, CTV News, Washington.
Well, as Judy mentioned, Joe Biden will fight for more commitments from members of the military alliance as the fight for his political future intensifies. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin on another defiant message from the U.S. president today.
Hello, 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 hello.
President Joe Biden came out swinging.
I am not going anywhere.
Taking a more aggressive strategy, calling into his favorite morning show and challenging critics in his own party.
I'm getting so frustrated about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me in the convention.
Firing off a letter blasting Democrats who are calling for him to drop out of the race. It's time for it to end, Biden wrote. We have one job, and that is to beat Donald Trump. Defiant and confident campaigning over the weekend.
We're on the cusp of getting so much done.
Some are asking, where was this Joe Biden before? The president is under growing pressure to prove at his age, 81, and after that disastrous debate
with the COVID, with dealing with
that he could take on Trump and win. But the party showing a deepening divide with more Democratic defections over the weekend. Biden has to do more to restore confidence as this top Democrat called for him to stand down.
I know in my heart and my soul and my brain that we can do better, and I know what the stakes are. Even after the debate, he didn't come out and show that he could deliver the message. They didn't address the health care issues.
No, it is. It is. You're asking me.
The White House getting into some testy exchanges about a visiting Parkinson's expert who visited the White House 8 times in 8 months.
Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No.
This is a crucial week for Biden to stop the fallout, looking to unite his party and show voters he's up to the job. Senate and House Democrats meet behind closed doors tomorrow to discuss the president's future. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. Boeing has struck a deal to avoid a criminal trial by pleading guilty to criminal fraud. It's in connection to 2 deadly crashes, killing nearly 350 people on the 737 MAX plane. Families of the victims are asking a judge to reject the deal.
We have a perpetrator that killed 346 people, and they have to be accountable for those deaths.
The plea deal would require the aircraft manufacturer to pay an additional fine of more than $240 million and invest more in compliance and safety. And another Boeing plane is also under scrutiny tonight. Frantic moments aboard a United flight after a tire fell off one of its planes during takeoff in Los Angeles. Fortunately, the flight landed safely. In March, there was a similar incident on another United flight. There are signs of more deals at car dealerships across the country after supply chain issues triggered a pandemic surge in prices. For more on which vehicles consumers can get the best price is CTV's Christina Tenalia. Christina.
Omar, it depends on the make and model, and this is all because the auto industry is bouncing back from inventory and supply chain issues that plagued the industry during the pandemic. Back then, some consumers had to wait months and months to purchase a new car. Now, experts say there's an abundance of cars for North American brands like Ford, GM, and Stellantis, and European luxury cars like Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. That means incentives. Dealers can offer lower interest since the interest rates they set are tied to vehicle availability, meaning better deals for consumers. Some discounts are dipping as deep as 15% on the retail price, and there's room for negotiation too, a tactic that also somewhat halted during the pandemic.
Car manufacturers have increased their prices over the last few years. Interest rates are at an all-time high, so financing and leasing is more expensive. and dealerships are not negotiating and charging higher prices. And now we're seeing a slowdown in sales, inventory is building up, and now dealerships are starting to be more motivated to sell these vehicles that have been sitting on dealer lots. So there's more rebates, more incentives, and more negotiating power for consumers.
And experts suggest that sought-after cars like small compact cars and hybrids from Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai are still tough to get, so there will be likely no deals there. And as a consumer, if you wait about 6 to 12 months, experts say prices could be even lower. Omar.
All right, Christina, thank you. In a country no stranger to political upheaval, there are new questions tonight about the future of France. President Emmanuel Macron's summer election gamble to keep the far right from power may have paid off for him, but with no party taking away a majority of seats, there are also risks of a deadlock. CTV's Colton Prail reports.
A month into its existence, this left-wing coalition is the new political force in France. A shocking upset in the second round of voting saw the new Popular Front amass the most seats, followed by Macron's centrist alliance and the far-right National Rally. But without a majority, the country lacks political direction, something already impacting the euro.
What we saw in terms of these wild fluctuations this morning is only a preview of what is likely to happen in terms of the stability of the French economy.
Mon engagement dans cette campagne. Adding to the instability, today centrist Prime Minister Gabriel Attal attempted to resign from his post, but was denied by Emmanuel Macron. The left-wing coalition is calling for one of its members to be named to the position, but some in the bloc say the immediate focus needs to be on how a group of former rival parties can govern.
C'est pas qu'on n'est pas prêt.
It's an unprecedented situation, and it will take time, Green Party leader Marine Tondelier said. It's the second major upheaval in European politics this month, after a decisive Labour win in the UK. But pushback against right-wing politicians doesn't necessarily mean hope for struggling Liberals in Canada.
I would be cautious about sort of looking for a pattern. If there's anything that resembles a pattern, would be that there has been a dissatisfaction with the status quo.
Cross-party alliances are exceedingly rare in French politics, and some politicians say it could take weeks to form any kind of political consensus between those in the center and those in the far left. Omar.
Colton, thanks. Coming up.
You can just try it out, submit a claim, and see what you think.
The changes to hook more dentists into Ottawa's care plan. Ottawa is making changes to the National Dental Care Plan. More than 2 million people have applied since the program launched in May, but dentists have been reluctant to join. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver explains.
How often are you flossing?
When the federal government launched its publicly funded dental care program, Dr. Melvin Lee signed up without hesitation.
And that's before you go to bed.
In the months since, nearly 100 patients have come through his door.
It's been heartbreaking because some of the patients, you can tell that they haven't seen a dentist in 5, 10 plus years. And so multiple missing teeth, cavities, and infections.
But not all dentists share his eagerness. Out of an estimated 25,500 licensed dentists, just 11,800, or less than half, have joined the program.
Hand open, please.
With many oral health professionals citing concerns with payments and billing, confusion around eligibility, and fear the process would be too complicated.
One of the things that I hear is, they've been burned by other programs. They didn't have positive experiences.
To help change that narrative and give patients more choice, Ottawa is now allowing all dentists, including those who haven't signed up for the program, to take part on a claim-by-claim basis and seek reimbursement for each service.
You can just try it out, submit a claim, and see what you think.
But the Canadian Dental Association says it's not that easy. Dentists still have to navigate a complicated system they say pays less and covers fewer services than private insurance.
The public is under the impression that this is a free program and that it covers whatever they need. And so people are coming into offices, some of them disappointed, some of them angry.
The program operates on a sliding scale, meaning families who make less money will get more paid for. But Ottawa warns that there could be out-of-pocket costs, as the amount that the government covers, Omar, could be less than what your dentist charges.
All right, Annie, thank you. Still ahead. preserving memories of Woodstock more than half a century later. Hundreds of festival goers reflected on 3 days that defined a generation. More than half a century later, massive efforts are underway to capture the unforgettable sounds of Woodstock by the Bethel Woods Center for the Arts. Some memories as vivid as these tie-dye shirts.
I think the feeling, and I wish I could bottle it. It was just fantastic to see all those bands.
What people experienced over the 3 days was sharing and caring to have hope for the rest of their lives that peace is possible.
Woodstock became a destination that made headlines.
More than 350,000 people.
A race to preserve what has been described as one of the most famous and pivotal rock festivals in musical history. After the break, Team Canada takes on the world champions at the Copa America. Canada has soaked up the international spotlight at the Copa America. The men's team gets a second shot at the world champions tomorrow in the semifinals. Here's CTV's Heather Wright.
The only North American team left at Copa America. Team Canada hit the pitch for training today, getting ready for their biggest match of the tournament.
You can see that this team is building. And I think now on the back of 2 really strong performances, we have an incredible task at in a semifinal to play against the best team in the world.
Today, Coach Jesse March said his players were excited but not satisfied when asked about the incredible run his team has had so far at a tournament Canada has never played in and now finds itself in the Final Four.
I wouldn't count these guys out.
So I believe this is a 96 away Canada kit.
And Canadian fans are all in, snatching up red and white jerseys as Canada faces off against the best player to ever wear the blue and white.
Argentina is always going to have a bunch of people coming in grabbing Messi kits, but it's nice to see Canada just fly off the shelf.
And while much of Canada will be watching Tuesday night, so too will the world.
Whenever there's a Lionel Messi game in this sport, it's a global event. And when you layer on the fact that it's, the semifinals of Copa America, it's all that much more significant.
Canada lost to Argentina 2-0 in the opening match of the tournament back on June 20th. But since then has earned its place in the Final Four, sticking to their game with grit, tenacity, and a little luck.
To see them compete at this level, not get flustered by how physical it can be, by how demanding it can be, how poor the pitch conditions are. They really are playing with a fearlessness and a bravado that we really haven't seen from the Canadian men's program in so long, and they're doing it so well.
There is at least one more game in this magical run. The team and its growing legion of fans hoping it doesn't end tomorrow. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Fingers crossed. That's a snapshot of this Monday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.